I think people are inherently complicated. I think the people we all would be is based on the context of what the situation is. I just think that's just the reality of what it is. All right. Let me ask you guys, and this is just a world life question here. Is it possible for human beings to find pleasure in working, or is it just a drain? Is it possible for people to be interested? Since you have a job or you're starting working, Daniel, is it possible for human beings to find pleasure in working, or is it just a drain?
I mean, for me right now, my job, I find it enjoyable, I guess. Like, I'm out. It was better than my marshal's job, I would say, since I was just only on the register and I really disliked that. And my manager was just really not it. But now I'm always like somewhere else. I'm always in like the fitting room, on the floor, or sometimes cashiering, but it's not as often. So it's really enjoyable since I'm all over the place and I get to do something instead of just stand behind the counter and wait for someone to come up to me. And I do think there is a possibility for people to find pleasure in doing work, but then it depends on if they enjoy it or not, honestly, because it could drain someone if they're not really enjoying their work. As I said, I kind of felt drained at the Marshalls.
Okay, that's interesting. Coyote, your parents run a restaurant, you help in it. I don't know. Do you feel like work is something that people find pleasure in, or is it just a drain?
I think it just depends if they like doing it. Like, for example, my dad, he loves to work. So for him, it's something he likes to do a lot every single day. And for my mom, if it was his choice, she wouldn't go and work at all. But she wants to help him out, so that's how she works. But sometimes she wouldn't work as much as he does.
Okay. What about you? When you're doing it, do you find pleasure in working at your parents' restaurant, or do you just think this is the drain? I'd rather stay home.
Sometimes I do like it, but depending on the situation, there's sometimes doing certain things I don't want to do, or like dealing with people over there. It's just like sometimes I don't want to do it.
You two, have you guys worked at all officially?
No, I haven't. But
Are you excited to actually work? Is it something that you guys want to do?
Yeah, it's crazy because I've been searching since like last year for a job, and it's just like damn, it's kind of hard, like listening to you guys like talk about it. I'm just like, I've been out here looking for jobs and shit, and I could never. But I think that it is possible for human beings to find pleasure in working because my mom. You see how you were saying like Daniel was saying he didn't like cashier. My mom loves to be a cashier. I don't know why, but like, I guess you can do that. I guess you can find love.
I think there's something interesting about like mundane aspects of work that are interesting. Like I think there's something about the mundane that is kind of fun. What about you, Sion? Are you excited to look for work, or is it something you're just dreading doing one day?
I don't really want to work, but I understand like kind of need money. So yeah, I mean like careers are interesting to me. So so I'm doing something that will be fulfilling, like a career entrepreneurship would be something that I'd look into, but like a job,
I don't know. Work is an interesting thing. I've always been able to enjoy my job, whatever I've done, the many things I've done, because I always feel I can make the most mundane things interesting to me. But no, like I don't know. Work is an interesting thing. Like, do I find pleasure in working? Like, I don't know. Like, I find pleasure in teaching, but I feel like for all the wrong reasons. Like, I say this and I think it sounds terrible. Like, I'm not one of these teachers who's like, oh my God, I love educating the youth and sending off the next generation. It's cool or whatever. But like, literally, my interest from working comes from like whatever ridiculous thing I can come up to do in a classroom. Like, for instance, let's see if I can force kids, let's see if I can make kids do a podcast. Or let me see if I can, people will not see this, let me see if I can get a sword and make kids do a sword fight for Macbeth. Like, oh yeah, like we had a sword and we just had people just sword fighting and stuff like that. Like, actually before the pandemic, I was actually gonna buy the fake blood stuff. And when Lady Macbeth like kills herself, I was gonna have one of the girls. You remember Michelle Baez? Yeah, I was gonna have her because playing Lady like Macbeth. I was gonna have her like cover her hands in blood, and she was just like gonna be like, "Oh, I'm dead." But like that's how I find pleasure in work. Like it's literally just about, all right, how ridiculous can I make class? He was this dude who stabbed his friends in the back and then became all guilt ridden. And
But he
then
was the king, right?
yeah, he
Oh, yeah, I remember.
he stabbed his friend to become the king, and then just got really messy. Started seeing like
His
dead
wife
people and
and
stuff.
right? That was
Yeah, and they were all
his
guilty. Like
daughter.
yeah, like yeah. Well, I mean, sophomore year, I was still young, but anyway, and pandemic didn't happen, but I do think people can find pleasure in work, but I do think it's hard. I think finding pleasure in work is hard. And that can sometimes be a drain trying to create that pleasure. But it is what it is. If I was rich or married rich, I'd probably never work. House husband. All right. So if you think of all the characters here, which characters experienced the most significant metamorphosis throughout the novel?
I think
Greet? Why
I
Greet?
think Greet and Gregor, especially Greet because she was first the most loving and kindness and considerate to Gregor, and then she wanted him gone, and it's just like damn, like people really change, and then Gregor, who was actually turned into a roach, I think he went through a metamorphosis on like learning or realizing that his family didn't like him.
I agree with you on both points here. Actually, do you guys think? Do you guys want to add on to that, or do you guys think any other characters really had a?
I agree with her, but I'm more the Gret's side since I think she had a bigger impact where she had all the responsibilities fall on her mostly.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. In fact, if you really think about the feminism thing we're talking about now in the Dollhouse, her character really had that glow up where she went from oh, she's really dainty, she doesn't work, she doesn't do anything, to I now take care of my roach brother person. And now I actually, do all these responsibilities in the house and have a job. These are not things they would have allowed her to do. So it's a really interesting, also it's a very feminist book if you think about it in kind of a way. That's a quick question. Let's breeze to this. In the end, the death of the family allows, oh, not the death of the family, the death of Gregor allows the family to be free and existential. Is this a fair ending considering Gregor's sacrifices? Do you think the ending is fair considering Gregor's sacrifices? Why is it not fair?
I personally say no, since the amount of stuff he did really helped him out from the beginning after his parents couldn't work anymore.
Okay.
And his sister was still in school, but also he didn't want her working and he wanted her to focus into school, and he was ready to put much more to push her to get her out of the house and get her to that music school, I believe.
Yeah.
So yeah, and he was going to do so much for her, pay off the school and do everything, and then she just pushes him to the side and just leaves him for dead at that point. It's so pointless. I don't think it's fair.
I agree. I think it's a disrespect. I think their closure, how fast their closure, like how it happened, I think it was very disrespectful to Gregor. Because it's just like, damn, like what Daniel said about when you really go in depth with how much he really wanted to do and how much he did do for them, it's just like you really messed up for really just everything he did, and y'all just gonna just throw him to the side. I thought that was very bad.
Do you two here agree?
I agree with what they said. It was really unfair because he wasn't happy either, and he was doing everything he had to do to support his family. And even though he didn't want to keep on doing it, sometimes he would think about quitting it and not doing it anymore. He still decided to do it for his family, and he put them first before himself. And at the end, they didn't care about him at all.
Well, I guess my follow-up question to this is, I mean, do endings have to be fair? Is there such a thing as a fair ending for anybody, really?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I thought it was just because I think it was actually a happy ending for the most part, except for Gregor. I mean, that could even be happy because he was freed from having to work for his family, and now
Oh
his
wow, I
family
never thought about that like that.
serve himself. So I think it kind of his life freed others and liberated his family. And I thought Gregor was great for that because if he didn't turn to a roach necessarily, then his sister wouldn't have became independent, and his mother and father would recognize how much they could do as well.
Oh, so you look at his death as the one final sacrifice.
Something like that, or the zenith, the final ending, the top of his life.
That's really cool. I've never looked at it like that.
Because like when you said Brett, like his sister, and you're looking at it in a feminist lens, it was like really empowering. So that's how I got to that.
Oh wow, that's really cool. I was just thinking like from the aspect of like, listen, I don't think endings are really fair. I just think things just kind of break the way you work, break the way they do. You know, life is what life is. It's like when we were talking about, I think what we were talking about in class. Is it nihilism? Well, it was during the stranger. I was just like, yeah, like I don't know. It's like one of the isms. Pretty much like none of the stuff makes sense. It doesn't really break in any real way that actually does make sense. So now we're going to talk about Kafka's letters to his father. I will summarize this one because letter to his father is pretty straightforward. Franz Kafka wrote a letter to his father, which was about 45 pages long, about all the conflicts they had in their relationship. Pretty much, he thought his father did not like him, and he expressed his feelings about why he thought that may be, and why he also disliked his father as well. It's this really emotional letter that is one of my favorite things to teach because I don't know. Again, we don't get to talk about all the author's real lives like that. So I think my first question to you guys, I actually did not write this down for you, but I'm going to ask you guys this question. What was it like reading the letter though? Getting to read this guy's letter to his dad that expressed all of these like emotions. Like what were your takeaways from the letter on that point of view?
I think it was sweet. I mean, not sweet. I think it was deep. Right, I watch a lot of anime and I get to see a lot of people's point of like in anime you could see everybody gets a point of view. We get to see how everybody thinks, not just like a situation. And it's just like that's kind of cool because he's expressing himself, and not a lot of people do that.
All right, that's interesting. Coyote, what did you think about the letter?
About what he had to say.
Just what do you have to say, or just the idea of the letter?
It was really deep. Like he would talk about how he was afraid of basically expressing himself, I believe, to his father, and how even just writing about it was like a little overwhelming to him.
Okay. What do you think, Daniel?
To me, the letter was like really eye-opening, and it gave me a deeper meaning to what the story was about. Honestly, since it was basically his perspective, but in someone's eyes, and him turning into something very monstrous. And the fact that he wrote all of that after, even then, they still didn't have a good relationship, even after all those were written up, was very, very key to me. Like, damn.
Sion, what did you think about the letter itself?
I think Kafka was really passive aggressive, and I wish he would have like seen or spoke to his father, like, or it would be like an interview. I would have done that. I think that meeting would fit more with how he would be able to express himself. I mean, although he wrote it.
All right, so this is gonna be the last question. I don't mean to cut you off, but actually, what you said just makes a good transition to why a letter? Why not a direct conversation?
I think that because he most likely sent a letter in a direct conversation to show how they're not really close, I guess. But what I really felt was like, because you usually you write a letter to get in contact with somebody that's far away. So it's like when you use that, and then the fact that they didn't have a good relationship, like it's like I don't know, something together.
What do you think? Why a letter? Why not a direct
But to
conversation?
me, it was the fear that he had. He didn't want to do it. His fear like overtook his confidence, I believe. So
Okay.
it was just like not there for him to. It was not an option to him.
Okay. Kylie, why do you think a letter?
I- like Danny said, how he was afraid of him, and I don't think he wanted to like confront him in person, but he still wanted to tell him. So I guess the only option he had left was to leave him a letter.
Um, I'm gonna just interject this. I don't know. Don't you think like maybe a letter is like a better way to actually communicate with people than a direct conversation? I don't know. Like, am I the only person who gets overwhelmed by conversations?
I kind of agree there, honestly, because it's like face on face. It's kind of like an interview thing where you and your interviewer are together. They're not like it's like that basically where Gregor is the person getting interviewed and the father is the person that has like the overconfidence in that position.
I think letters are cool, and this is something I do like with text messages or emails. Like I always write them out, and like I reread them to think about like how do I really want to say the thing I want to say. Because the fact is, you only have like a finite time to say something before someone else responds to you.
I agree with that.
So I think like that's an interesting thing. Because like when I have something to say important to say in a lesson, I'll like rehearse it at home and be like, all right, this is the thing that's gonna make people understand what the hell I'm talking about.
Do you do
So-
that in front of a mirror?
No, I just pace a lot and just pick up with that. Or sometimes I'll hear something in a video or like a thing. I'm like, this would make sense. But no, I agree with you. I think fear has a lot to do with the letter, but I also think the letter itself is, just a good vehicle to express like information. But the one thing about the letter that I do think is super, super weird and I can't get past it, it's 45 pages.
Yeah.
It's 45 pages. It's 45. It's basically like 10 pages less than the book about why don't you like me? I don't understand. And like, I'm sad and I'm a sad boy and I want you to like me. It's really weird. And I feel uncomfortable reading it, but it is what it is. But bringing this to like a conversation, I guess we all can jump into. From your point of view, why are relationships between children and parents complicated?
For me, it's the growing up aspect.
Okay.
When growing up, if they do not have a close relationship, it's not gonna last to their adulthood. So once you grow up and if your parent is not affectionate to you, honestly, I think that it's not gonna like the parent in your own eyes is not worth your time once you get to adulthood since they were never there for you.
Wow, that's really profound. Look at you.
I think parents and children relationships are complicated because parents are supposed to do and be for their children, and when they don't, or when I don't know, when you wait. I don't know how to explain this because I've been through it. It's just, I'm sorry. Let me think. Go ahead, someone.
Simon, what do you think relationships between parents and children are complicated?
Because there's differing levels of maturity, and so when people aren't ready to hear the right things or it's not presented in the right way, it could they can misinterpret a lot of messages.
Cody, what do you think?
Sometimes, like you said about maturity, sometimes even parents can't be understanding about certain things. So, like, sometimes in situations, let's say I want to talk to my parents about something, sometimes they wouldn't be understanding. So then, like, the next time I wouldn't be so sure about talking to them about it.
Interesting.
And I agree that some parents can be childish. Like it's more like they're supposed to be the adult and you're supposed to be the child, but they're also a child. So it's just like, how does that work? How do you do that? Because now the child is always there's always a problem with this child. And you're a child as well. What are you supposed to do?
Is that what you would say before?
Yeah.
Okay.
Something like that, yeah.
All right. So let me ask you this question. If you guys feel like you have good relationships with your parents, why do you think that is?
Because I'm not sure.
Because you're mature.
I think because we both matured.
Okay. So you feel like you're both able to level?
Yeah.
What about you guys? Why do you think if you have a good relationship with your parents, why do you think it is?
Well, for me, I have more of a good relationship with my mother. She's more understanding about things, and we're able to communicate more well. And
Okay.
it's always been like that. With my father, it's harder because he's more of a person who doesn't like to speak about what he feels, and if you tell him anything about what you feel, he doesn't really care about it.
So basically he's just a man.
Yeah.
He's basically just a man. Okay. Why you, Daniel?
I kind of want to agree since I'm closest to my mom than my dad, and my dad usually like he's not as affectionate, but he's there, but he's not like kind of there. If you get what I mean from that. If you don't, then I'll try to explain deeper. He's just
No, I get it.
always
Gender
just
roles.
gone most of gender roles basically, and I usually confide to my mom if something happens, and my mom is very understanding, so she gets that, and then she like helps me out most of the time, and I help her out whenever she needs me, and it's just she's always there, so I feel like I'm always gonna be there for my mom since she has always been there for me.
Sion, what do you think? If you have a good relationship with your parents, what do you think that is?
Um, maybe because I've always been able to like have conversation, and they help me like express myself because I've been like kind of quiet my whole life. So,
Really quiet.
yeah.
Could not believe this. Go ahead.
Yeah, they helped me like be able to try to speak up more. So I think I've understood them.
I don't think I've ever seen you with your mask pulled down, so this is a moment. What's up? All right. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I guess I'm supposed to be with the parent. I think my understanding of my mother became better when I understood that people are just complicated. I think once you are able to understand your parents are just like people trying to make sense of the world, it's just like, okay, you didn't really know what you were doing, and that's okay. It doesn't make things like okay, but I think it's one of those things like where like you understand like this stuff is complicated.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Mature.
Yeah, like we're both trying to make this thing make sense. It's like one of the things like actually that makes me like over the years I think has made me a better teacher and a better person because like I interact with so many kids who have so many different weird types of issues. I'm just like, all right, so everything's just like complicated for everybody. All right, so that's just what this thing is on so many levels. But I'm gonna say in terms of the book, to wrap up the book, the letter, what is the one thing you think the author was trying to express about family?
The family's not forever.
Family's not forever.
If not connected, it will break apart.
If it's not connected, it'll break apart. Coyote.
That family could abandon you even in the worst times.
Okay. Sion.
Help yourself when because people might not help you.
All right. Is there like at least a positive message you might take away from this?
Be selfish.
Be selfish. Hey, selfishness is a life philosophy. All right. I'm gonna get you guys out of here in like 30 seconds. Do you think kids should continue to read the Metamorphosis?
It was a very confusing book to me.
Okay.
At first, but
Yeah, honestly, I would agree. Very confusing in the beginning, but I feel like after reading the book and the letter, the understanding gets way deeper, and I think they should, honestly.
Okay. What about the rest of you two?
I think it's not. I'm sorry. I think it is. Let me finish. I think it's good. You should read it because it's like it shows on how family is portrayed is not always like that. Like there's people all go through stuff. Basically, it's still something different.
All right. Coyote, do you think it's a book people should read?
Yeah, I think so, because I think it opens their mind more into what they should express when they hear family, and that sometimes family is always there for you.
In the future, I just always want to remind you guys, it's perfectly okay to decide that you don't like books. It's perfectly okay. If we can do it with TV shows, we can do it with books. I start TV shows all the time. I'm just like, I'm not finishing this. I start books. I start TV shows. If a TV show isn't good, like instantly, not instantly, I'll give it like a season. If it's not, I'll give it like a good 4 or 5 episodes to flesh out its story. If I get to the end, I'm like, all right, I'm not watching this. Like, I'm not into it. There are stuff that's been like hits, and I'm just like, I'm not watching this nonsense. Let me see. Go ahead, Simon. What do you think? Should people read this?
Personally, I didn't like the book.
Okay, that's fine.
I think like this book would help someone understand the family dynamic.
Okay. No, you guys are now like haven't you started a TV show you didn't like? Haven't you started a TV show that you didn't like?
Of course, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Not a season that it was like an episode or 2, and then I don't watch it.
No, I give it some time to flesh out its story. Some stuff takes a while. Then the second season it starts getting good.
No, I can't even get past. If I can't get past the first episode, not paying attention, I'm just not gonna watch it.
All right, what are you watching right now?
Right now, I'm watching Bleach. I'm finishing Bleach because perfect example. I started it when I was a freshman after I finished Naruto, and after like 5 seasons, it got whacked, and I just dropped it. And then I found out that those were all fillers that I was trying to watch. So then when I skipped the fillers, the show was good. It's very great.
Okay. You watching anything at all, Simon?
Yeah, I watched Atlanta.
Oh yeah, I like Atlanta.
You
Yeah, I haven't watched season 3 though.
Oh yeah.
I'm waiting for it to finish. Like a binge all of it at once.
Okay, yeah. I'm the same way, but
You just had to. You just
Yeah.
had to. Okay.
Marlon said it was gonna be the best.
Okay.
Since the finals.
Coyote, what are you watching?
I'm not really watching anything at the moment, but I was watching Attack on Titan's new season.
Okay.
Girl, I'm waiting for all the dope to come out. Oh my god.
What are you watching?
I don't really watch TV like that.
Oh God! Look at you guys. You guys get fresh air and you work. You're not better than us. All right. Anyway, all right, guys. Have a good day. Thank you. Okay, that was our final episode on the Metamorphosis and the life of Franz Kafka. Hopefully the next episode will not be so late, but it will be an interesting one since we will be transitioning into Henrik Ibsen's A Doll House and starting up a conversation about feminism, feminist critical theory, and marriage.